You changed the world. But do we live in a world that is better today than it was in 1985? This is the question historians will debate in the future. In terms of nuclear weapons, we're less safe. More countries have them. Control, especially in the former Soviet Union, is less good than it was in 1985. In areas where once there was civil peace, today there is civil war. In areas where people live longer, today they live less long. There may be less democracy and more fascism. I worry we may be entering a dark ages. And therefore the question arises, Gorbachev changed the world, but are we better off today than we were when you came to power in 1985?
The implementation of my new thinking in international affairs is something that has had far-reaching consequences. I can't regard the end of the Cold War as a failure, or the fact that we ended the sharp confrontations and division of the whole world based on ideology. We ended the nuclear race and have begun to turn it around and destroy rockets. We have pushed forward the dismantling of conventional weapons. And above all, when the world was locked in confrontation between the Eastern and Western blocs, we were not able to resolve any international conflict at all. Now things are very different in Afghanistan and elsewhere. Of course, there are still problems. It is not easy to solve everything so quickly. But there is no longer the confrontation between the two blocs, where these countries were treated like guinea pigs. Would the end of apartheid in South Africa have been possible? And what's happening in Namibia, Angola? We think that we started a most important process, and I think that it is related to the settlement in the Middle East. I could list many other examples. Is this really a failure? No, I don't think so.
Nonetheless, we could say the following, that Gorbachev and his foreign partners, Thatcher, Reagan, Bush, Kohl, gave us an opportunity we did not have in 1985, a new opportunity today to make the world truly safe, but everything depends on how the leaders today use this opportunity, which you gave them. Would that be a fair summary?
Not entirely, because we were not only visionaries who created an opportunity, we did much ourselves to show how one should act.
Do you feel that you and your children are safer today with all these nuclear devices and so little stability in former Soviet territories?
No, I don't. I am just as concerned as you are. But the politicians who took on the responsibility and who were capable of ending the Cold War were not just pacifists. They were real politicians who made very difficult decisions and were not afraid of these difficulties. Now when there is this great opportunity and a situation in which it is possible to act even more dynamically in international affairs, the current policies simply surprise me.
Already in the Western press, there's the image of a new threatening Russia. Our press is full of, what is Russia in America? Corruption, mafia, crime, crisis. People are beginning to fear Russia again, not because of communism, but because everything seems to be out of control. Then there's the fear of Russian nationalism. After Zhirinovsky's victory, or partial victory, in the elections last year, people in America began to say there's the danger of fascism in Russia. So again, the whole image of Russia and the possibility of a new union, what will be the American reaction?
So the United States would like to see a stable country here, with democratic principles and respect for other countries and its neighbors. If that is so, then I should say that Russia will become stable more quickly and will become a more democratic country with open relations with others more rapidly if the process of integration among the former Soviet republics or the Commonwealth takes place. There are impulses for reintegration coming from various places and various republics. There are impulses coming from the people of the republics rather than from the elites who do it simply to realize their political ambitions. If there is a process of new integration, it won't be the old type of union government. It will be a real union of states, and at first it will be a sphere of economic cooperation. This is the thing that will really bring stabilization and calm people down and open up the possibility of cooperation with other former republics, even if it is not profitable. Moreover, Russians, and I am deeply convinced of this, want economic cooperation. It means a large potential market. And if it is a large market, then it means new jobs. I think, Steve, whoever believes that it is to their advantage to beat into Americans' heads that a backward, stagnating Russia is good for Americans and serves their vital interests is wrong. Neither Russians nor Americans need that.
It's possible to agree with you completely, but still to ask you this question. Think about politics in America. You know America. You know the situation. What do you think will be the reaction in the United States if any kind of new, larger Russia, union, confederation, association begins to emerge?
But why is it that Washington ought to decide what relations there should be between the former republics of the Soviet Union? Why should they decide over there? Why should you, if you respect democratic principles, want to impose some kind of model, especially a model which you think is to your advantage? Why don't you give it a chance? If there are free elections, that is the basis of Gorbachev's new thinking, recognize that every people, big or small, should have free elections. But I'll say once again that the process of stabilization is what we need, even without the cooperation of the former republics. But it is all made out of inseparable parts, all of which are suffering from the split. Even the great Russia, which had counted on controlling its resources of oil, gas, everything at its disposal, in order to quickly become one of the 5 most developed countries. And this is what it has come to. Even Russia can't do without the other republics. It is a dismembered body. The republics must be given the chance to function with all parts. But this would not be in the form of an empire. That can only come about on the basis of voluntary decisions.
I am prepared to believe that you are correct, but tell me in one word what you think will be the reaction in the United States when that process begins and becomes apparent to Americans. What will be the political reaction in the United States? You have to remember how happy the United States was when the Soviet Union disappeared 3 years ago. And if 3 years later or 4 years later, suddenly Americans wake up and it looks like, it sounds like it might be another Soviet Union or a greater Russia, what will be the American reaction?
Ну, послушайте, сие ведь, так сказать, от американцев не зависит.
Listen, this is something that doesn't depend on Americans. Do they think that they destroyed the Soviet Union themselves, and now this is all in their hands? No, this was a domestic process. I don't want to ascribe it to the Americans.
Правительства еще не отказались от демократических принципов, в том числе и в международных отношениях.